make a quick video of the undercarriage of the Trans Am. I'll go ahead and start up here at the front. Let's see. So let's see, the lower control arms, they were fitted with special bushings. I just greased everything, by the way. You can see the grease is coming out. I fitted these with those like spherical eye bushings. They're it's almost like a solid bushing, better for racing and handling. They're from Pro Touring F Body. This is an adjustable sway bar, also from Pro Touring F Body. You can loosen this Allen bolt here, and you can slide this further in and further out to change handling. Just last night, put on some new rotors, and I went out and bedded them in today. You can see it started to transfer the pad compound onto the rotor, but they're slotted and vented rotors. It's got a modified original spindle. You can see where the original spindle was cut off here and in the same place up top, and then this bracket was installed so we could put these wheelwood forged 4-piston calipers on here. I used the EBC yellow stuff pad. Worked really well. Double adjustable. Wipe off some of that dirt. I hate when there's any dirt under my car. EBC, I'm sorry, these are Viking double adjustable rebound and compression. I've already got everything dialed in. Canton road race pan. It's got the flaps. The trap doors are flaps in there, so it holds all the oil by the pickup. CBR mini starter. And you can see I've got everything, all the wires all wrapped in high temp shielded wrapping, so it keeps the heat off everything. I even have, see where the brake line goes past the header, it's wrapped in high temp to reflect any heat. What else we got up here? The pulley system, I can show that from the top of the engine. Rob MC pump, mechanical pump with all AN fittings. The headers, just had them recoated because I had bottomed out a couple of times when I was racing or testing the car, so I had it recoated, and I welded in some thicker metal here just to make sure. You can see where I've got it flattened here and here for more clearance, and just had those recoated with a ceramic coating. There's the TKO. Took it apart and resealed it. You can see I put the aerobic sealant around here, so it's been resealed. This is the best part, I think. See these band clamps? There's band clamps on the exhaust, and you can see the exhaust comes in these Borla mufflers, which are then just attached. There's nuts welded on the other side. This is behind the rear seat. And if you undo those band clamps right here and here, and then take these two bolts out, the whole exhaust drops out. That makes it really easy to drop out the exhaust if you need to change the transmission or work on the transmission, or whatever you're doing. 3.5-inch aluminum drive shaft with the 1350 yoke. That's like a heavy-duty truck yoke. I think That's a Mosier piece that I put in there. It's the original 12 bolt rear end. I put the Mosier housing on it because these adjustments here, they actually press down on the parts that hold the rear end stable, so it gives it some more strength. There's heavy duty Mosier axles in here. For the rear end, or for the rear suspension, this is a heavy duty racing leaf spring, 250 pounds. I think factory is like 120, 130 pounds, something like that. All new stainless steel braided, or stainless steel brake lines. And you can see, so the tank, I took out the original tank, had it boiled at a radiator shop, and then coated with an epoxy coating on the inside so it'll never rust. There's the Rob MC pickup. That's actually a return, but you don't need a return on this car. So that's capped off, but it's got a 8AN braided line that's wrapped for heat protection. And I put a little hose clamp around it here just so it wouldn't rub on anything like these bolts. And it goes up through the factory routing. Runs right up here. All these are factory holes where the original line was mounted. And goes up to the first fuel filter. You can see that's where the Tiger cage is bolted in. That's the backing plate for the Tiger cage, the door bars. The door bars run right along here, and that's down by the kick panel. There's the first fuel filter, and it runs back up through the factory location. You can see it's solid bushings here and here. Also has a solid bushing here. This right here, that was a hole in the factory frame, and it worked perfect for mounting this tow bar. I just cut a little hole right there and tow bars through there. Let's see what else we got down here. That's an aftermarket transmission crossmember. It's aluminum, it's light. Back in the 70s, I guess someone put in a different transmission at some point, and you can see where looks like they just used a torch and put new holes through here on both sides. Really doesn't have any effect on anything, so I didn't bother filling it. I've also sprayed up inside the frame. I guess you really can't see in there, but to prevent any rust inside the frame. And these are bolt-on subframe connectors. They can just easily be removed. Really nice setup. These are also Pro Touring F-body. They just bolt on right through the existing unit body structure. There they are right there. The rear brakes are the D52, D54. They're floating caliper. Also Willwood. All braided steel lines. Double adjustable shocks from Viking back here also. I think that's about it for underneath the car. Oh, the hangers back here. These are adjustable hangers, so you can change where, and these are also, all the bushings on the car are polyurethane. I think these right here, this is like a spherical bushing up here, so it allows this to actually pivot a little bit. But these are adjustable hangers, so you can change the ride height if you just go down to the next hole. See, I've got it on the lowest setting. If you want to ride a little higher in the back, you can go down to there. I need to clean it up under here. There's a little mud on here. What's up, Les?
Nothing.
There's also I put a toe sticker here because you can put like a 18-inch toe strap around there and have it hanging down. As far as rust on the car, it was a rust-free car, and when I was doing the undercarriage, this is the original undercarriage. I scraped off all of the under coating, and it came down to this beautiful original primer underneath here, and which was amazing. Original floor pans. You can see there's no welding up here. That's all original metal, which is beautiful. All original GM metal. Now, when I had the car completely torn apart, I saw these little holes back here where it looks like it was, you can see some right here. There's one right there. So I sanded all this down and treated it with rust. What is the stuff that prevents it from rusting? I use Zero Rust. It's what they use on like Navy battleships. They have the contract with them. So I sanded all this down and coated it so it's not going to change anymore. You see, there's a little spot right there, and that was all I found on the car. So you can see it's not very bad. So I just left it and treated it, and there's been no change since I did that. There is some mud up here. I haven't cleaned it, but you can see there's where the tiger cage mounts in the back. There's a little plate right here, and let's see over here. There we go. You can see this one better. Here's also, so you have a plate on the outside and a plate on the inside of the frame rail, and that's how the cage mounts around the rear frame rail. Here's the brake lines going to the rear, all stainless steel, original factory bends in them. No emergency brake, I just disconnected it, and it's zip tied right there in case for some reason somebody'd like to hook it back up. You can see there's a good view of the tiger cage plate right there, and I think there's one right here behind the seat. Yeah, so we got one here, one right there up front, and there we go, the one in the rear right here. Should have gotten here and wiped off the mud first. Yeah. There we go, much better. Yeah. So that's about it for the underside of the car. Hope I didn't leave anything out. Oh, the steering box was redone by, gosh, it's a company out in California that's no longer around. They were doing it for like 40 years. But they completely rebuilt and revalved the steering box, and it's outstanding. I've got a somewhat stiff, aggressive steering on there, so it's good for track days. I didn't want it like super loose and power steering like the cars came from the factory, so it's tightened up a little bit. All original sheet metal. Let's see, you can still see it's got, you know, the mud flaps to keep mud out that go over the upper control arms. But yeah, it's all original GM metal. That's cool. And you know, all the steering components have been replaced. All that's new. And these are original. I found some new old stock 455 engine mounts. So those are super beefy. They're beefier than the factory ones for the 400. And these are heavy duty springs on the front. I think they're 650 pound springs. I don't know if you can see back up in there. No, but I've got a spacer on top of the spring, so because it's a short spring and the spacer was cut to adjust it to get the right ride height. And that's about it for the undercarriage. I'll lower it down and do some more footage. Back on. All right, I've got the car back on the ground, and we'll start back here. There's the AccuSump, and it's got a pressure sensitive switch right here. It's electronic, and you can adjust it. See, right now I've got it about 25 pounds, 25 to 30 pounds, something around there is when it kicks on. And there's about 62 psi of oil in here. That's about 2.5 quarts or so. It's good for pre-oiling the engine, or you can leave it on when you're on a track day, and it will kick on if there's ever low oil pressure. You can see it's got the original, package tray. I did cut a couple of spots out so the tiger cage could go through there. You can see how the tiger cage, remember I showed you underneath the car, it had a plate mounted on the outside, then here was the frame rail, and here was the little plate on the inside, and then it mounts right up in the package tray. See if you can see that. There we go. It's got 2 that go through the back firewall, and then 2 that go through the package tray. And then those connect to the down bars here in the back. Watch your fingers, Les. The studs on the rear, I put 1/2-inch studs all around the car. There's the Willwood, I think D54, D52, the floating rear calipers. Let's go up to the front. You can see I've got the also the Willwood hubs on the front. You can see brand new rotors. They're also new on the back. You can just see where I started to bed in the brakes and the material started to transfer. I drove it maybe 5 miles since I put the new pads and rotors on. Original shaker, original Trans Am fenders. Let's go under the hood here. Lee, that's who did the power steering box. Lee Power Steering. They also modified the stock pump, and they took off the reservoir, and it's tapped because when you're on a track day or doing autocross, the solder joints for that reservoir will actually get too hot and melt, and that reservoir will break off. You can see how close everything is. I mean, it's a very precise fit. Took me a long time to get this right. But there's the power steering reservoir. It's remote and finned, so it keeps things cool. And then there's the Pro Touring F-body, upper control arms. There's the kind of the Herb Adams brace, dual master cylinder with the adjustment bar. See this adjustment bar, see how there's less sticking out over here than here because I've got it biased towards the front brakes. You can undo these 2 lock nuts and turn that bar to the, and you can move it left or right, and it'll change your brake bias. And I just dialed this in with the new pads yesterday, and it's set perfect right now. Let's see. There's the oil thermostat. The oil comes out of the engine, goes through the thermostat, then back into the filter, and then back into the engine. But I think it's around 200 degrees, that thermostat opens and sends the oil up here to the oil cooler. And man, you can run it wide open on track days like at Road Atlanta for, all day long, and it'll never get above, 250, 260 degrees on the oil temperature, which is right exactly where you want it. It's got the standard V-belt set up. Of course, it's, gosh, I can't remember, maybe it was CBR Racing I got that from. And there's great adjustments. Actually, I forgot to lock that one back down. There we go. And everything's wrapped. You can see the heat shielding on all the lines. And there's a fuel pressure gauge. And this is I took a factory airbox cut the bottom out, modified it with a deep pan, so with the Torquer 2 intake, you could fit the factory scoop on here. That was a great hell of an experiment, but I got it working. There's the remotely mounted oil filter. You can see where they go into the engine down here. And see that line right there? That goes through the floorboard. And actually, watch out, Les. And I've got it running right there. There was a bullet hole in the floorboard. I guess back in the day, somebody shot a 45 or something, was playing with it in the car, and they shot a bullet hole right in the exact right spot. Because that's exactly where the return line for the oil filter housing is. So I just ran it right through there. And goes right back under the back seat and to the AccuSump. And these are Italian leather seats, Corbeau. They're bolstered, so you sit in the seats better when you're doing autocross or track days. You can see the tiger cage, and it's a perfect fit. You can see right where the door closes. Tiger cage just barely touches up against it. And this rear bar is actually removable. You take out that bolt there and on the other side, and then you can have people in the back seat. Otherwise, you can hook up 5-point harnesses and you know, put those in for racing or track days. And there's my Just Track It and Road Atlanta sticker. Let's go look in the car. See if I can crank it up here for you.
Yeah, do that.
Watch out there, Les. Alright. I'll just crank it up because it's actually still on the lift. That's the original buzzer. Tells me the keys are in the ignition. Alright. So I put in some aftermarket gauges because for track days you definitely, all the factory gauges were redone by gosh, I think it's a place in Tennessee. So all the gauges, the clock, everything works. You see the clock second hand going. Oil pressure, temperature, RPM, fuel, volts, all that works. But I wanted so I modified, I had a fiberglass, what do you call this, A-pillar cover. I don't know what that's called. There's the factory metal one right here. But for this one, I had a fiberglass one made, and I put in these big gauges, water and oil. So when you're on the track, you can just do a quick glance and you can see what all the pressure is. And then the oil pressure is right there, because when you mount a GoPro on the harness bar, a GoPro looks out the front window, and you can see it has your oil pressure in view right there. So you can go back and watch your videos, see if you had oil pressure dips and when the AccuSump kicked on. As far as the AccuSump, I'm going to turn it on to pre-oil the engine. And it just fired off. So now we have 20 pounds of pressure. And it'll stay there. There you go. You can see it dropping because it's running out of oil. I'll go ahead and crank it up. Now, the engine's cold, so the oil pressure is going to be a little high. I've got an 80-pound high volume pump, but once the oil heats up, it runs at 60 psi, which is perfect. Horn works. And these wires I just routed. These wires I just routed through. There's a little plate right there from the factory that's removable. I don't know what it is. It's just in the dash. You can remove the plate. It's under the Trans Am logo or the Firebird logo. And so I just ran all the wires right through there, and they all go through the underneath the center console. But this is the I didn't hook up a reverse light to the Tremec, so that's manual reverse lights. This is just auxiliary power. It's actually just a cable I have here in the back seat. You can hook up things like a cool suit or any kind of auxiliary item you want to power. I use it for a cool suit, so I'll plug in my cool suit back here and put the cool suit shirt on, and then just flip this switch here and it activates my cool suit. And these are all just velcroed down. So is this, because this is the original dash. I didn't want to damage any of the original dash, so all that velcro can just come right off. All this can come out, no problem. As I said, I made the car so it can be easily put back to 100% factory. There's the glove box, original glove box. And let's get out. That's about it. Headlights work, windshield wipers. Let's see. See, the headlights are coming on. You got the factory bright switch right there. Windshield wipers. And they're the hideaway wipers. So I got the correct motor in there. You can see how they go down and then they hide themselves. The interior light, if you turn the headlight switch, comes on. This is the original headliner. I couldn't believe it was still original, so I didn't want to replace it. So what I did, it was coming apart in some places. I just got some thread and stitched it back together. You can see there's some more stitching right here. Yeah, there it is. There's where I put the stitching in. But yeah, that's the original headliner that came in the car. So it's that's pretty awesome. And these are the original visors also. So since that was original, I didn't want to mess with it. It's got the original seat belts, and there's the little you know, this is how it was from the factory, that seat belt hung on that little plastic clip right there with the elastic band. These are original seat belts.
Nice.
Original kick panels. You can pull the vent levers out and it blows in fresh air. All that works great. It had a radio in it when I got it from the 80s because it's a tape deck, but it worked, so I just left it in there. Cigarette lighter works if you want to plug in an iPhone or whatever.
This is a really nice car.
Thanks, Les. And oh yeah, so I've got the power on. The blower still works, high, medium, low, and here's normal or defrost, and then there's your temperature. All that works. I took out the air box underneath here. There it is right there, and I replaced the heater core. You just got to do that on a 50-year-old car. But yeah, man, I've covered everything. What do you think, Les? But yeah, there's the interior. The back seats. There's, you know, that's the original transmission tunnel or you know, cover, original rear seats. And I've got the original seats for the car downstairs if those wanted to go back in. I did change the steering wheel. It's got the little racing center line on there. It's also like you know, it's like a suede grip, so you get really, really good grip for autocross and track days. Yeah, but that's it, man. This is the whoops, I left the headlights on. There we go. And these are actually original decals from Pontiac. The original owner bought them in it was like 1985, because he was planning on painting the car. So we bought them at 85 when Pontiac still sold them at the dealership. And then when he repainted the car in like 2010 or something like that, because the car was already painted when I got it, just everything else had to be done. But it did have a nice paint job on it. But yeah, he put the original logos back on there. I mean, that is the original factory Pontiac logo, so that's pretty cool. There you have it. That's a 1970 Trans Am. Hope you enjoyed the video.